Welcome to Look Ahead Radio with Tom Arms and Lockwood Phillips.
After getting up at 5 a.m. to listen to Prime Minister Theresa May's remarks related to Brexit, I've been looking forward, that was yesterday, I've been looking forward to today's conversation with Tom Arms of LookAheadNews.com with our viewpoints around the world. And as always, to remind you, you're welcome to join us by phone. If you have a comment, observation, a question, 252 area code 247-7282. That's 247-7282, 910 area code of our listening audience, 353-4674. 353-4674, toll-free 800-818-2255, via email at viewpointsradio@hotmail.com, and, of course, via Facebook at Viewpoints on the Talk Station. As always, it's a pleasure to have joining us from London, Tom Arms, again, of LookAheadNews.com. You can sign up for his blog at no cost, and in the process, gain a lot of very valuable information. And with that opening, Tom, good evening, and how's the weather there in London?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's cold. It's very cold. I cycle down to the gym every morning, and this morning it was -4 centigrade, and I thought both my nose and my fingers were going to fall off before I got to the gym. But it was very clear, bright blue sky, sunny, cool, crisp day.
This sounds like it's you're enjoying this weather. Is this typical weather for London?
Well, I mean, this time of year, it can get very cold.
We call that winter, by the way.
As I've said before, it's normally, it's not like New England. We very rarely get snow in London. Further north, you get plenty of snow, but not so much here in London. We haven't had any snow this year.
Well, let's talk about the temperature in London, and particularly in the UK, in light of Prime Minister Theresa May's remarks earlier this week. She laid out a plan for the exit from the European Union, Brexit as it's called, and I want to go through some of those details if you have a few moments. But before I even get into that, how were her remarks received, particularly in the UK, and then we'll ask how they were received also in Europe as well.
Well, basically it depends on what side of the Brexit argument you're on as to how it was received.
All right.
The country is still divided even after her speech. But a lot of people are very angry that she's gone for what they call a hard Brexit. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are very pleased that she's gone for something called a hard Brexit. And in fact, I'd say it's still very much 50-50. Personally, I don't think if you're going to, pull out of the EU, she didn't have much choice.
No, she didn't.
If she wanted to have control of immigration, as she said she did, mm-hmm. And if she wanted to have complete control of trade agreements and all the laws, then the only option was a hard Brexit.
What would be the alternative? I mean, other than staying in.
A soft Brexit.
Okay.
And the soft Brexit basically said that you agreed to free movement of people. You agreed that European regulations and laws would apply in the UK. Mm-hmm. And you agreed basically everything except that you would have a seat at the political council tables where all these regulations were decided. So that. And you'd have access. You'd have complete access to the European market just as you do now.
All right.
Under hard Brexit, you've got to negotiate those terms, and they're not going to be as good as if you were a member of the EU. That more or less goes without saying.
No, the one thing that did catch my, and I was listening, those were some of the items that she actually articulated. I think it was 5 points in her speech. The one thing that did catch my attention, and two items. One, that is the other UK members, Ireland and Scotland specifically, and Wales. She mentioned those three for sure, about how they would make that transition as well. But the thing that did catch my attention was the fact that the United Kingdom had, if I understand this correctly, relinquished some of its judicial responsibilities to a European court. How is that resonating among the Brits, particularly in light of the fact that, British common law is pretty much a standard for many in the Western civilization. We even use it here as one of our standards in the U.S.
Absolutely, and it's a standard in Europe, too.
Okay, but
so when they talk about, relinquishing laws to Europe, 90% of the laws originated in the UK.
Right.
The British wrote German law after World War II. They set up the European Court. So it's all based on British law anyway.
But the issue that, and I'm just wondering how particularly those in Great Britain feel about relinquishing some of those responsibilities to Brussels and the European Court. Is that not something that's sort of been a shall we say, a pivot point for many in the UK?
Well, as I said, the country's divided over the issue.
Okay. Well,
and it's not so much the courts into the issue. The issue is you give up something, but what do you gain? Do you gain enough in return for what you give up, which is being part of a greater Europe with all the power that comes with that?
All right.
But that is the issue. Just like, joining, Virginia or North Carolina joining the United States.
All right.
It's the same sort of thing. Or someone joining, if you have a small company merging with a larger company and taking advantage of the things that the large company can offer. More
of a federal approach. All right. I want to, speaking of that, related to a federal approach, as a matter of fact, and that is the reaction of the subunits of the United Kingdom, Wales, Ireland, and Scotland. All three were noted in her remarks Tuesday morning. So, Tuesday morning for me, I guess it was around noon in London when she made her remarks. My question to you is, what has been the reaction of Scotland, Ireland, and Wales? I know that Scotland was very keen to stay part of the European Union. What's the status of that, and what impact might this have on the relationship with particularly Britain and Scotland? Of course, Scotland has once before sought to separate itself, and of course, Ireland has been discussing it from time to time.
Well, on Wales, they're going along with it for the time being. They voted to leave Brexit, and I think that's as a unit, they voted to leave Brexit. Mm-hmm. Scotland is very much opposed to Theresa May's speech. They say it's another reason for seeking independence. Mm-hmm. Northern Ireland is also opposed to it. And in fact, there's going to be a court case next week at which it's a crowd-funded court case, which is going before an Irish court, a Northern Irish court, which will argue that if the exit goes ahead, or if Article 50 is invoked, as they say, negotiations start, can it be reversed? Or is it something which is unalterable? So that's going to be next week. Also next Tuesday, by the way, is going to be the Supreme Court ruling on the vote in Parliament on Article 50.
Wow.
So that's coming out next Tuesday. So Scotland and Northern Ireland still trying to stay in the European Union and trying to pull any rabbit they can out of the hat to do so. I don't think it has gotten to the stage yet in Northern Ireland where they're talking about secession as they are in Scotland, because there's still a Protestant majority there. There is the added problem, of course, of Northern Ireland, that it shares a border with Ireland, with the Republic of Ireland era. So that means that at the moment, this border is an open border. Wow. But if Northern Ireland, as part of the United Kingdom, withdraws from the European Union, can that border remain open? And it's politically important that it does remain open. Or, for commercial reasons, for trade reasons, does that border have to close?
We're going to get back to some of these issues, and we'll move on to several other items as well with Tom Arms of LookAheadNews.com. That's the website. Just go to LookAheadNews.com. Also, of course, heard on Look Ahead Radio and heard every Friday afternoon here on the talk station and stations all around the globe. You're listening to Viewpoints Around the World.
Look Ahead Radio will return in just a moment.
This is Tom Arms with LookAheadNews.com's World Report for the week beginning 23rd of April. LookAhead broadcasts tomorrow's news today so that you can plan to participate. Donald Trump is now President of the United States and will start his administration with a slew of confirmation hearings and congressional labors to overturn the work of the Obama administration. Meanwhile, the top woman in his administration, Kellyanne Conway, will address an anti-abortion March for Life rally on Friday. On Monday, French presidential candidate François Fillon and German Chancellor Angela Merkel meet in Berlin to discuss relations with the new U.S. administration and Brexit negotiating strategy. Fillon, the Republican Party candidate, is the current favorite to win the elections in April-May. French socialists choose their candidate on Sunday, the same day that Germany's Social Democrats choose the person to run against Chancellor Merkel in German federal elections. The right of Parliament to vote on the start of Brexit negotiations will be finally decided by the UK Supreme Court on Tuesday. In another court case, the Italian Constitutional Court will rule on the legitimacy of a new electoral law. Peace talks between Syria's President Assad and non-jihadist rebel groups finally start in Kazakhstan on Monday. The talks will be co-hosted by Russia, Turkey and Iran. Syria will also be discussed at the UN Security Council on Thursday. On the entertainment side, it is the Oscar nominations on Tuesday. La La Land is the front-runner for Best Picture. And finally, Tuesday is America's National Opposite Day, when children are encouraged to say and do the opposite of what they mean. The event dates back to the 1920s. Perhaps in the 21st century, it should be renamed Post-Truth Day. And that was next week's News Today, so that you can plan to participate in the world around you. Stay tuned after this message for the expanded world analysis.
They say the best things in life are free. So, hey, why are we paying so much for our basic information and entertainment needs? The average cable TV bill has more than doubled in the last 10 years. The price of movie tickets keeps going up. So, exactly what is free today anyway? Well, you're listening to it. Local radio. Support the advertisers that support this radio station. And keep listening. We won't send you a bill. There are still some things you just shouldn't have to pay for.
This is Tom Arms with LookAheadNews.com's expanded world analysis for the week beginning the 23rd of April. LookAhead broadcasts tomorrow's news today so that you can plan to participate. And he's off! Donald Trump starts his first full week as President of the United States with the focus on overturning the work of his predecessor and securing Senate approval for his appointments. Friday is the self-imposed deadline for congressional repeal of Obamacare, and up for confirmation hearings are Mick Mulvaney, Director of the Office of Management Budget, Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, Ben Carson, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Linda McMahon, Administrator of Small Business Administrations, and Betsy DeVos, Secretary of Education. One of the key planks in Trump's election platform was overturning pro-abortion Supreme Court ruling Roe v. Wade, and one of the key events in the anti-abortion calendar is the March for Life rally on Friday. This year's rally will be addressed by the highest-ranking woman in the Trump administration, Kellyanne Conway. Working with the Trump administration will be the top of the agenda item when French presidential candidate François Fillon and German Chancellor Angela Merkel meet in Berlin on Monday. Fillon, the Republican Party candidate, is the current favorite to win the elections in April and May. On Sunday, the French Socialist Party stages the second round of its presidential primaries. On the same day, Germany's Social Democratic Party, the SPD, decides who faces Angela Merkel in German federal elections in the autumn. The UK Supreme Court on Tuesday rules on whether or not Parliament must vote to invoke Article 50 of the EU's Lisbon Treaty, the legal step required to open Brexit negotiations. Last week, Prime Minister Theresa May revealed that she's going for a hard Brexit, which will take Britain outside both the single market and the customs union. There's also a big court case in Italy on Tuesday when the Constitutional Court holds a hearing on the legitimacy of a new electoral law. The outcome will determine whether fresh elections are called. Russian-organized Syrian peace talks finally get underway in Kazakhstan on Monday. The talks are co-hosted by Russia, Turkey and Iran. The Turks have asked for the U.S. to be included, but have been blocked by Iran. However, the U.S. will be represented at UN-organized talks on Syria in Geneva next month, and Syria will be discussed at a Security Council meeting on Thursday. On the entertainment side, it's the Oscar nominations on Tuesday. La La Land is the front-runner for Best Picture, and its star Emma Stone is tipped for Best Actress. The Best Actor award appears to be a three-way race between Denzel Washington, Casey Affleck, and Ryan Gosling. And that was next week's News Today, so that you can plan to participate in the world around you. Stay tuned for Viewpoints Around the World with myself and Lockwood Phillips.
Welcome back to Look Ahead Radio. Here is Lockwood Phillips.
Viewpoints Around the World with Tom Arms. Joining us this afternoon, LookAheadNews.com is his blog. Again, free for the read, and I would hardly recommend that, as well as, of course, listening into Look Ahead Radio, heard on this station every Friday and stations around the world, and I do mean around the world. Tom, thank you for staying with us. We've talked about Theresa May and her Brexit speech. I do want to segue into Donald Trump, which, of course, is another hot issue. But before we get into the politics here in the States, just an observation. President-elect Donald Trump said that he thinks that the dollar is too high. He's made mention of that, and also has expressed support for the UK and said that should the UK leave the European Union, it would move to the top of our list of our trading partners. Does that give any solace to those who are concerned about Brexit, and particularly the issue of the American dollar, quote, being too high? That would, of course, have an impact on Great Britain. But what's the reaction to those two comments?
Well, first of all, I noticed that the dollar has slumped as a result. The latest figures have shown it has dropped as a result of Trump's statement. I haven't gotten any reaction yet to official reaction to his statement about the dollar. As for the trade agreement, again, it depends on which side of the argument you're on. Mm-hmm. Certainly, Boris Johnson, the foreign secretary, who is very much in favor of Brexit, says whoopee. So does Theresa May. That's great news, they say. People like the Financial Times are saying, hold on just a second. Let's think about this. It's going to be a lot more complicated than you realize. I was talking to one person, Steve McCabe at Birmingham City University, who was saying that you've got to be very careful about these negotiations because at the moment, America is in a very strong negotiating position and Britain is not. Britain desperately needs trade deals.
Why is the U.S. in such strong negotiating position? Just out of curiosity.
Well, it doesn't need the trade deals. It already has trade deals in place around the world. Britain doesn't. If it withdraws from the EU, it's desperately going to need trade deals to replace the agreements it has through the EU. All its trade deals now are via the European Union. But so it's going to have to renegotiate trade deals with everyone else.
Two questions for you. Number one, we've talked about this in the past. The United Kingdom was working diligently and I think successfully on a special trade deal with China. Number two, with every indication right now that the European Union, and Jamie Dimon, as a matter of fact, recently acknowledged that he thinks the European Union is probably toast, as they say here in the States. So the fact that there are dynamics outside of the United Kingdom related to the future of the European Union, and the fact that UK has been working diligently on trade pacts with China strikes me as the fact that the United Kingdom particularly has been sort of positioning itself.
Let's start with China.
Okay.
Let's start with China. It wasn't a trade deal. What they were working on was an agreement between the London Stock Exchange and the Shanghai Stock Exchange to coordinate. Mm-hmm. So that's something different. That's not a trade deal. A trade deal is much more extensive than that.
Okay.
I don't think the European Union is toast, not by a long shot, not yet. Mm-hmm. It may be if Trump continues the way he is, if Brexit continues on the route it is, it may become toast or mm-hmm. Trump toast. But it's not there yet. If he keeps attacking it, then yes, it's going to make it more difficult. And certainly his interviews with the Times and Bild were seen here in Europe and in the UK as an attack on the European Union, as an attack on Angela Merkel, even if a veiled one. And they're very, very angry. They're particularly angry about his comment about NATO being obsolete.
Right. I wanted to get to NATO. There, of course, is discussion in some of the European countries about major changes in politics. We've seen that in France, Germany, possibly Italy. Does the populism, and of course we've got the meeting in Davos right now, is there a sense that the elites associated with the European Union have lost touch with the vast majority of the population? Interesting statistic, the top 5 richest people, individuals in the world, and many of them, these 5 are at Brexit, have more wealth and more stuff than 50% of the world's population. That's a stunning number.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard that over here as well. And you're absolutely right. That is what led to the election of Donald Trump. It's what led to the Brexit vote. And
what's the future?
Certainly strengthened the populist wings in countries like the Netherlands and France and Germany and Italy and Austria. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't necessarily mean it strengthened them enough that they would abandon European unity. In Italy, for instance, yes, there is a strong populist movement, but the populist movement there is for withdrawal from the Eurozone, not from the European Union. Even in Greece, they don't want to withdraw from the European Union. They don't want to withdraw from the euro.
But wait a second. There's reason for that, particularly in Greece. I would also argue in Spain, maybe a little bit in Ireland, definitely, and I think growing concern in Italy. And that is the economies of those countries are totally dependent on the euro because they've been loaned large sums of money.
Yes, and I think that's absolutely true. And in Germany, they are very much in favor still. All the polls show that they are in favor of remaining in the EU and keeping the EU together. I recently heard Trump's ambassador designate to the European Union claim that Angela Merkel had dropped in the opinion polls or approval rating polls. Nothing could be further from the truth. She's actually risen. She's now at 57, maybe even, I think she might be 60% today, approval ratings. So I don't know where he's getting his news from or where the Trump administration is getting their news from. Because she has a very high approval rating inside Germany.
Well, the same location possibly is where we got those same numbers for the failure on the Trump campaign. But very quickly, Tom, because we've got to go to another break. Tom Arms, of course, of LookAheadNews.com, joining us this afternoon. Tom, if in fact the European Union collapses, and this is an issue of the world economy and world politics, there's every reason to believe that this could bring down Greece, potentially Italy. I mentioned Spain, Ireland as well. A few other countries probably I've missed. Is there a concern that should the European Union in fact implode, that it will take down, let's just start with Greece?
Of course it would.
Okay.
But you know what else it would do? It would create a political vacuum.
Okay.
And as we know, nature abhors a political vacuum, and Russia would move into it.
We're going to take a quick break.
And I don't know if that's something that the Trump administration would like or not, to be honest.
Well, it's interesting. We've had the situation with the previous administration wishing to have a Russian reset, which it failed miserably on. And now we have a president who said that he will, in fact, talk with Russia, which apparently did not happen under the current administration. And interestingly enough, has somebody who has also been willing to stand up to China. We'll get to that as well in a few moments. First, let's take a quick break here on Viewpoints Around the World with Tom Arms of LookAheadNews.com, also with Look Ahead Radio, heard every Friday afternoon here on the talk station, but LookAheadNews.com. Sign on to be a regular reader of that blog. It's free, and it's worth your time. I can guarantee that. Stay with us here on Viewpoints Around the World.
Look Ahead Radio will return in just a moment.
Quick, what do these sounds have in common? These are the sounds of geography. Geography helps us understand connections between people and places. But our kids aren't getting enough of it. Half can't locate Japan or India, and 20% can't even find the Pacific Ocean. So we created MyWonderfulWorld.org to give kids the power of global knowledge. Go to MyWonderfulWorld.org to learn more. It's a wonderful world.
We now return to Look Ahead Radio. Here is Lockwood Phillips.
Viewpoints around the world with Tom Arms of LookAheadNews.com and also Look Ahead Radio. We have Tom on the line with us, but we've also got a caller. I wanted to get to the topic of the inauguration. Well, let me do that before I get Dennis in Jacksonville on the line with us, Tom. And we've got so many other things. Very quickly, the inauguration 2 days from now. Is there a sense that this is going to come to fruition? Has the European community, the United Kingdom, have they come to grips with this change? And are they concerned with the threats of riotous and anarchist activity? Very quickly, Tom, what's your answer to? Really?
Absolutely. In fact, you said earlier that the European Union was toast. People over here are saying that the United States is toast.
Wow.
And certainly the Trump administration, people taking bets. Some of the bookies are saying that Trump is likely to be impeached. They're giving 50-50 odds that within the first year he'll be impeached. It's not just these demonstrations. I understand they're taking place in 300 cities as well as Washington, D.C.,
right?
But about 50 cities around the world as well. There's
Really?
going to be a big demonstration, probably 50, 60,000 people at least here in London.
Really?
So there's going to be one demonstration. There's going to be a women's march, but there's also going to be a demonstration where they're going to hang banners and take possession of the bridges across the River Thames. It's going to be called Build Bridges, Not Walls.
Wow.
People around the world are very angry with the election of Donald Trump. They couldn't vote, and so they're showing their anger in the only way they can, which is going out and demonstrating.
It's interesting, and we're that's a stunning statement from you, Tom. Or disclosure, I did not realize this. Keep in mind, 50%, and we're not going to parse the numbers in the sense that there were supposedly 1 million additional voters or 2 million additional voters in favor of Hillary Clinton. The fact that 50% and the Electoral College, and this is the way the system has always been built here in the United States, voted for Donald Trump. What we're hearing is, if you will, the proverbial highway salute, for want of a better description, to those voters. And that's going to be, I will tell you, not very healthy for the Europeans and other communities around the world that are protesting this. Let's go to Dennis in Jacksonville. Dennis, good evening. Thanks for taking time to call us. Yes, sir.
All right. So I'll try to remain somewhat calm here, but I have to tell you, I'm sitting here laughing.
Okay.
The complete and absolute derangement that is being instituted by liberals throughout this country and the world.
And the world.
It is so telling to me. There's nothing more useless, in my opinion, than a demonstration. People go and march around. It has become like the popular thing to do now. Everybody's running around demonstrating everywhere. If everybody would take a collective breath and allow the man to actually be president and see what actually happens, maybe they can get past the hysteria into reality. The fact is, if people would stop a second, realize one thing: Trump is not a politician. When he says something like NATO is obsolete, he's not saying it should be done away with. He's saying it's ineffective. When you have Russia walk into countries right around it and NATO does nothing, doesn't that signal to somebody it's obsolete? When you have him talking about all kinds of different things that aren't working, when he's saying that the Russian leader is a strong leader and he's doing a good job for Russia, he's not saying it because he thinks Russia should take over the world. He's saying it to say our leaders stink. That's his point. If people would step back and really think about what he's saying instead of just reacting emotionally, they could have a different perspective of what's going on. So what they're going to end up doing is everyone's going to get out there, they're going to get themselves all in a wreck and run around crazy, And then as Trump goes into this, the thing people need to remember, he's been a businessman for 40-plus years. If he were some insane lunatic, he would have never gotten where he is. It's just craziness for me to watch it right now. And to see it here is one thing, but then to hear there's going to be people protesting throughout the world, I hate to say this, but this is the United States of America. We are not world global citizens any more than they are. So when we make a vote, and this is who we choose, this was the decision that was made. Protest, jump around. We don't protest other people whenever they elect someone. And it's just, to me, I hate to say it, it's somewhat comical to watch because nothing's even happened yet.
Dennis, thank you very much. I've got some other callers, but I appreciate your observation. Let me go to...
Okay, can I just answer Dennis's points there?
Go for it.
And thank you very much, Dennis. Can I just say that there's a very distinct difference between the word obsolete and ineffective. Ineffective. If he'd meant ineffective, he should have said ineffective. It's completely different from obsolete.
Well,
he has to be more precise in his language. Now, on the point of Russia, he's also said not only is Putin a strong man, but he's advocated lifting the sanctions against Russia without any withdrawal or any concessions over Ukraine or Crimea. All right, and that is where people part company with him. A lot of people agree that Putin is a very effective leader. Of course he is. As he said, he's a very smart man. And finally, people protesting around the world. The fact is that a decision that is taken in America, even a domestic decision, has an impact around the world much greater than any decision taken by any other world leader.
Okay.
And that is why they pay so much attention and why they demonstrate because these decisions are affecting their daily lives. People will die as a result of decisions being taken in Washington. I think that gives them the right to demonstrate and make their voices heard.
Okay.
Yes, he is elected by the American people, but he affects everyone around the world.
Okay, we've got to go to a break, but I find it interesting because we've seen situations there in Europe that are European-centric, and a case in point is the inability of Europe to come to some understanding with Russia, by the way, and the fact that it's relying on the United States to lead the way on that one. And also, I would argue, the events recently, and the terrorist events in Germany and other countries, France and even the UK, have been situated and permeated from the Middle East. I will see if we can get to that. We've got to go to a break. We've got Gary in Oriental, Ernie and Emerald Isle standing by, but we're going to take this quick break here with Viewpoints Around the World with Tom Arms. And Tom, boy, it's going to be tough. Hopefully we can get to the Barcelona-Catalonia issue. We did not get a chance to talk about that last week. I'd like to see if we can get some time on that. Stay with us here on Viewpoints Around the World with Tom Arms.
Look Ahead Radio will return in just a moment.
The Hip Thigh Bone Theory of the World by Tom Arms from LookAheadNews.com. It's time to explain my hip thigh bone theory of the world. The theory is based on the 1920s African-American spiritual, dem bones, dem dry bone. The ditty, in turn, was based on a biblical passage in which a collection of dry bones reassemble themselves before the astonished eyes of the prophet Ezekiel. The foot-tapping, hand-clapping spirituals are roof-raiser in evangelical churches around the world. It is also a popular song in young children's anatomy classes. But to my mind, it perfectly explains how the rapidly shrinking and interconnected world has become increasingly dependent on its constituent parts, or bones, working together. The hip thigh bone theory of the world has been languishing, disassembled, in my notebook just waiting for the right peg. It came this week during my weekly radio broadcast. Totally aware of the likely reaction, I bravely pointed out that millions of people around the world would be holding anti-Trump protests because it was the only way they could voice their distrust and dislike of the man. I was deluged with angry callers insisting that foreigners had no right to protest and that they should leave us alone, and we will leave them alone. Well, I'm sorry, but the world no longer works like that. And what's more, it hasn't for a very, very long time. The world body politic has become totally interconnected. In fact, the bones that comprise the skeleton of our globe are not so much connected as fused, and then overlaid with a complex web of nerves, muscles, sinews, international political and trade organs, ligaments, and a protective skin of military alliances. In fact, it seems that the only thing missing from this metaphor is a functioning brain. The fact is that if you want iron ore for your steel mills, it's best to have a quiet word with the Swedes or Canadians. If you need phosphates to fertilize the amber waves of grain or the fruited plain, it's best to be nice to the Moroccans. For tin cans, think Africa and Australia. If you want a brick house, you need sand. That probably means China or New Zealand. As for oil, well, just think of an unstable part of the world, smile nicely, and stick out a fistful of dollars. America's not alone in its needs. Central and Western Europe are heavily dependent on Russian natural gas. Landlocked Bolivia depends on good relations with Peru and Chile to export and import its goods by sea. Oman and Iran together control the Straits of Hormuz and the entrance to the Persian Gulf. And the Vietnamese rice paddies are at the mercy of a China that controls the water flowing from the Himalayas. The world is not just connected by trade and natural resources. The complex and interwoven financial structures that grease the wheels of commerce are increasingly important. There may be so-called national exchanges in New York, London, Hong Kong, Frankfurt, Tokyo, and Dubai, but in our 24-hour world, all these exchanges now operate as one global trading floor, fed with information from 24/7 global news operations. Finally, there are the overarching political connectors. At the top of the list is the much-maligned United Nations, which currently has 100,376 personnel deployed on 16 different peacekeeping missions. The UN has 20 agencies whose responsibilities include fighting disease, World Health Organization, helping to feed the world, Food and Agriculture Organization, providing finance, IMF and World Bank, ensuring that telecoms work across borders, International Telecoms Union, and many more. There are a host of other military, political, and trade alliances which play their part in reducing tensions in order to create what is beyond doubt the most prosperous and stable world in history. For major countries such as America, the world's richest and most powerful, and the one with the biggest stake in the existing structures, to withdraw from this world would be akin to tearing out the global backbone. And once disassembled, the bones of the world body politic will not magically reassemble as they did in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, verses 1 through 14.
Welcome back to Look Ahead Radio. Here is Lockwood Phillips.
Viewpoints around the world with Tom Arms, joining us from LookAheadNews.com, and of course Look Ahead Radio is well heard every Friday afternoon here on the talk station. Tom, we have two callers. I'm going to ask them to be very quick because we've got to move on to a few other items, but starting with Gary in Oriental. Gary, good evening to you, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, Lockwood. Hey, Tom. You know, Tom, every time I listen to you guys on this show, the first thing that comes up is the weather. First of all, I could care less about the weather in the UK.
Okay.
Now, here's what I'm hearing from you, and I'm hearing from the left in my country. Everybody is betting on failure. I'm sorry, I got a really big problem with that. You're talking about people protesting in the UK over our president-elect. It really has nothing to do with it. Do you see us over here protesting Theresa May? No, we don't do that. Here's the problem, Tom. You have got a very, very big problem in Britain. Okay? You've got a crime problem. You've got a Muslim problem. We have an immigration problem here, too. It's very simple. Why is everybody betting on failure? Why in the hell can't everybody bet on success?
Okay.
You know, he hasn't even gotten in here yet.
All right, wait, Gary.
Okay?
You made your point. I think it's great, and thank you very much. I want to go to Ernie very quickly. We've only got a few moments, but
Can I just answer that very quickly?
Go for it. Yes. Go for
They're not betting on failure because they want failure. They're betting on failure because they hope he will fail.
They do?
Yes.
Oh, my land. All right. Thank you very much, Gary. Appreciate that. Let's go to Ernie in Emerald Isle. Ernie.
I'll be real quick. Point one, Trump's not going to be impeached. That's a bunch of baloney.
All right.
Point two, I could give a flip about what Western Europe cares about Trump in our politics. if it weren't for the United States, you folks over there would be speaking German right now. And that's my comment. And stay out of our business, and we will stay out of yours.
Okay, well, just understand that we're talking to Tom because he's sharing with us the opinions and the events in Europe. And by the way, I am hearing, at least for the first time, some of the events that are planned for this Friday, and was really quite stunning. I appreciate your comments, but don't aim them at my friend Tom Arms. Aim them at the folks that you disagree with in general. Tom, I thank you very much for your patience as well. Let's move on.
That's all right. Can I just answer that last one too?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I might be writing my observation of an expat on this, and that is my hip bone connected to the thigh bone theory of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what happens in Europe affects what happens in America. What happens in America affects what's happening in Europe, and vice versa. We are an interconnected, interdependent world. We're not so much connected as we are fused at the hip bone to the thigh bone to the toe bone to the knee bone.
I have one other observation, and I've heard the statement: if it weren't for the United States, you all would be speaking German. I will say right out of the gate, if it weren't for particularly Great Britain and the steel of one Winston Churchill, who knows what we would all be speaking at that time. That is a hackneyed phrase, and I just want to remind everyone that the UK was receiving bombs for 4 years before we ever entered that war. So I think it's important that folks understand.
Only 2.
2. I'm
only
sorry,
2.
2 years. But they were 2 desperate years, and I have just as a personal note, my mother-in-law, actually I call her my second mother, was a proud and very firm subject of the Queen, and she was a war bride. But that's another story. Let's move on.
Can I just add also that when 9/11 occurred, the only instance in history when Article 5 of the NATO treaty was invoked was after 9/11, when NATO came to the support of the United States and sent troops to Afghanistan. That is the only time in the history of the alliance is in Afghanistan in support of an attack on the United States.
I think those are very important items. Thank you very much for making those observations, Tom. Let's talk very quickly because I want to talk about China building inflatable dolls. But let's start with Barcelona and Catalonia. What's the situation there in Spain?
Well, there's still they had a referendum. There's a difference between Catalonia and Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
In Scotland, the Scots went to the British Parliament and said, we want to have a referendum. And the British Parliament said, yes, you can. In the case of Catalonia, the Catalonians went to the Spanish Parliament and said, we want a referendum. And they said, no, you can't.
Right.
They held it anyway.
You know, it is interesting.
But it was declared illegal by the Spanish government. And in the case of Catalonia, I think 86% of the people in Catalonia, which is basically Barcelona in the hinterland, immediate hinterland, 86% of the people voted in favor of independence from Spain.
Let's talk about that very quickly because I want to move on to the issue of China. That's something a lot of folks are not aware of. Spain is not necessarily a cohesive country.
It's a very incohesive country.
Okay, I think that's important. And my question is, what impact would that have on the European community? Would it be disruptive?
To a certain degree. It'd be more disruptive on Spain.
Okay.
It might encourage other parts of other countries to do the same. There's Walloon in Belgium. There's obviously Scotland. There's Northern Ireland. There's parts of Italy and places like that. You might see other places being encouraged to break away.
Is this part of the populist movement? Yes or no?
Yes, it is, but not. It's been around a long time, long before the populist movement.
But it is gaining momentum. I've got to move to China very quickly. The inflatable dolls. Tell us about them, Tom.
Well, it's Chinese New Year in a couple of weeks, and it is the year of the rooster. And the big thing this year is 30-foot high inflatable roosters with a Donald Trump bouffant hairstyle.
Well, wait a second. I thought that's a rooster bouffant, but okay.
No. It looks an awful lot an awful lot like the Donald.
Okay,
it really does.
China, though, is not really happy with Donald Trump.
No, well, I mean, they wouldn't be.
Is that something?
I mean, he's already done two things which they don't like, which is threaten tariffs,
all right,
and then talk about reopening the issue of a two-China policy.
Okay, this is concerning Europe as well. This is important, and we will get on with other conversations as well in the future with Tom Arms. He mentioned it a moment ago, his column, and also just to remind you, LookAheadNews.com, as well as Look Ahead Radio, heard every Friday afternoon here on the Talk Station. And again, in defense of my friend Tom, remember, he's expressing the observations about what he's seeing and hearing in Europe. As far as the weather's concerned in London, that's always a topic I introduce in the conversation. Stay with us here for more here on the Talk Station.
Look Ahead Radio is a production of the Talk Station.